Hello there and welcome to Needy Cat Crafts. Let's take a look at corner to corner crochet using a join as you go method. Start with a slip knot on your crochet hook and then you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And here is the chain from the front. Here's the chain from the back. These are the back bumps. Starting in the third back bump from the hook, I'm going to double crochet. Now I have 2 back bumps left on this chain. I'm also going to double crochet into each of these back bumps. So in the end here, I have 3 double crochets. Next, I'm going to chain 5 again and do that same process again, starting in the third back bump from the hook. I'm going to double crochet. And then into the next 2 back bumps, double crochet into each of those. Now I have these, what I like to call 2 little dog ears. And the one on the left, I'm going to flip up. So it's facing down, I'm going to flip it back and up, just like that. And here is the chain 2 space at the very top. This is where I'm going to join these 2 clusters together with a slip stitch. So here you can see the double crochets are going up and down on this cluster, and then the one on the left, they're going side to side. So to continue, we're going to chain 2. And then in that same chain space, we are going to double crochet 3 times. So essentially with the corner to corner method, instead of working our rows horizontally, we are working them diagonally. So my row 2 is done, and you can see I have worked this row diagonally from the bottom and then going up to the left. Let's continue on with row 3. I'm going to chain 5 just like I did before. And then working in those back bumps, the third back bump from the hook, I'm going to double crochet. And then in the next 2 back bumps, you're going to double crochet as well. Now I'm back at my 2 little dog ears. The one on the left, I'm going to flip up, just like that. Locate that chain 2 space at the top here. That's where we are going to connect these 2 with a slip stitch. Continuing on, we're going to chain 2. And then in that same space, we're going to add 3 double crochets. Now let's locate that chain 2 space at the top of this cluster, and we're going to slip stitch into that space, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that space. For this specific project, I'm going to continue my rows until I have 6 clusters of double crochets going along the bottom, as well as 6 clusters of double crochets going along the top. Now let's take a look at decreasing our rows so we can fill in this upper right part of our square. So this is normally where I would be chaining 5 to continue with a new row. But instead, I'm going to be slip stitching into these V stitches at the top here. So turn your work, it doesn't matter which direction you turn it. Locate your stitches at the top. Pull your working yarn behind, and then into that first stitch there, you're going to slip stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch one more time into the next stitch at the top. Next, locate that chain 2 space on the side and slip stitch one more time. Next, I'm going to turn my work and then chain 2, and this is where we will continue with the next row. So into that same chain space that we just slip stitched into, you're going to double crochet 3 times. This is going to look the same as it did before when we were creating our rows the first time. So we need to slip stitch into this chain 2 space right next to it, and then continue working the row diagonally. So same as before, chain 2, and then into that space, double crochet 3 times. And I've continued all the way up, as you can see here. Here I am at the top. I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space. And we're going to turn our work over, locate those stitches going along the top here. Into that first one, you're going to slip stitch again into the next one, and then locate that chain 2 space going along the side here, slip stitch one more time. And then turn your work just a little bit, continuing on, chain 2, and then into that same space that we slip stitch into, we're going to double crochet 3 times. And then continue the pattern as we have before. Slip stitch into the chain 2, chain 2, and then just continue the pattern, working diagonally here until your rows get smaller and smaller. Here I am at the last set of double crochets. This last row only has 1 cluster of double crochets. To finish up our square, we're going to slip stitch, and then I like to chain 2 before cutting my yarn. And that is the basics of the corner to corner method. Now we can take a look at adding a new color using the join as you go method. For my next color, I'm choosing light green, and we're going to be working this row going up. So first you want to locate the upper left corner of the square. I'm going to put a slip knot on my crochet hook, and then I'm going to slide it off briefly. Insert my crochet hook into the chain 2 space in the upper left corner, put that slip knot back on my hook, pull it through, and then chain 5. Here's my chain 5. Same as we did in the first square, you're going to locate that third back bump on the chain and double crochet. And then same thing in the next 2 back bumps, double crochet into each of those. And here is what I have so far. Take the square on the left and flip it up. And next we're going to locate the large spaces going along the side of the white square. So these large spaces are in between those clusters of double crochets. This is where we're going to be joining the next square. So we're first going to slip stitch into that first large space going up the side. So we've attached our first row. We're going to continue working along the side, so chain 2, locate that next large space and slip stitch. So here's our first cluster of double crochets. We've slip stitched, chain 2, and then slip stitch again. Next, chain 2, and then flip your work over, and then locate that chain 2 space right here. We're going to double crochet 3 times. So this is the beginning of our second row. We need to connect these 2 clusters of double crochets, so locate that chain 2 space and slip stitch. Continuing on with the second row, chain 2, and then double crochet 3 times into that same space. Let's do one more row together. So row 3, same as before, we're going to chain 5. Locate that third back bump from the hook and double crochet. So like before, we're going to flip our work up. And then slip stitch into that chain space at the top. Chain 2. And continue with row 3, 3 double crochets. And then here slip stitch, chain 2, 3 more double crochets, and then we're going to attach this cluster of double crochets to the next large space going up the side of this square. So slip stitch, and here row 3 is completed and it's joined to the previous square. We want to continue with the next row, so chain 2, Locate that next space going up the side, slip stitch into that large space, chain 2, and then flip your work over. This is the start of the 4th row. Locate that chain 2 space, and right here we're going to put 3 double crochets. So the pattern is going to remain the same, including the row decreases. The only difference is along the white square we're going to be joining with slip stitches along the side. And here I've joined the green square to the white square using the join as you go method. The idea is that for the first row you want to continue working vertically, and you'll always start in this upper left corner of the square. And here's a look at my first row. I have alternated the white yarn with the light green yarn. And now we can take a look at row 2. So I'm going to turn my row sideways. And I'm going to start with the light green yarn. And this process is going to look the exact same as the last square I just demonstrated. So I'm going to insert my hook into that upper left corner space and then chain 5. The process here, joining the first square of the second row, is going to look exactly the same as the one we just did. So I'm going to fast forward, but if you need to review, just rewind and take a look at that last square again because it's the exact same here. And here the first square of the second row is complete. Our next square is going to be joined right here in the corner, and then for the second row we will now be working vertically down the first row. So I'm going to use dark green yarn this time, inserting my hook into that upper left space. This time I'm going to chain 2. Locate that first space going up the side and slip stitch, and then chain 2. I'm going to flip my work over and then double crochet 3 times into that chain 2 space. I have my 3 double crochet cluster. I'm going to slip stitch into the first space going along this side. Next I'm going to chain 2 into that next large space going along the side, slip stitch again, and then chain 2. I'm going to flip my work back over and then working row 2, I'm going to double crochet 3 times into that chain 2 space. And then slip stitch into that chain 2 space at the top of the next cluster, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that same space. So now we need to finish row 2 by joining it into the next large space going up the side using a slip stitch. And next we're going to chain 2, locate the next large space going up the side and slip stitch, chain 2 again, flip your work back over. Starting row 3, we're going to double crochet 3 times into that chain 2 space. Continue with the corner to corner pattern using the join as you go method. So here I'm going to fast forward row 3. I'm going to attach row 3 to the square to the left, find the next large space, and slip stitch, chain 2, slip stitch into the next large space going along the side, chain 2, flip your work again, and start row 4. The decreases for this square will remain the same as the other squares. And now I've finished square 2 of row 2. For row 2, I'm alternating light green with dark green. And then I'll go back to alternating white and light green for my third row. This will create a gingham pattern. And in this case, I'm making a blanket. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.